I'm really sorry to say this now, but I have to. Donald Trump is planning a Bitcoin backtrack. He wants to withdraw his planned Crypto Bitcoin Executive Council or the Bitcoin Crypto Advisory Team. This is according to reports from Unchained. We need to take a look at the whole thing. Additionally, Bitcoin is being discussed in the current Joe Rogan episode. And there are also very, very critical words here. People have high hopes here in Donald Trump in the administration team, but now it looks like there might be a setback. I know now the comments will come. Everything always goes back and forth here, sometimes positive, sometimes negative. I can't help it, that's just the news situation here. You can't just ignore the report, so I have to report on it here, even if some people might not like to hear it. This has nothing to do with the future of Bitcoin. The future of Bitcoin is still bright. Everything looks very, very good. And even if there's a backtrack now in the crypto executive team, or whatever you want to call it, if it's rejected or maybe withdrawn, Bitcoin is still winning here. It just might not happen as quickly, and might take a few more years. We are also looking at, especially in the Joe Rogan episode, where they really address what the issues are and why Bitcoin might not be the top priority, but rather sits a bit lower on the priority list. And we've seen it several times now where things were blown out of proportion, whether it was a Bitcoin reserve or other things. And then it always gets delayed. We haven't had a moment where it was just like, okay, bam, the USA is going all in on Bitcoin, but it was always postponed, delayed. I'm still optimistic that something will happen here, especially at the state level. Forget about Donald Trump, what he's doing. The states currently really look like they are going to handle this. Over 20 states have Bitcoin reserve bills. And it's very, very likely that one of them will pass. And if that happens, then others are very, very likely to follow. That means this is probably the biggest hope for a Bitcoin reserve at the state level right now. But let's take a look at it now. There is now a report at Unchained that has been published here. It already says in the headline, Trump is having second thoughts about his crypto council. The Trump administration might cancel their planned executive council and instead prefer informal industry summits. This new plan is seen as a way to avoid the widespread tribalism and internal disputes in the crypto industry. So on one side, there are all the people, the Bitcoin maxis, who say, hey, only Bitcoin, we have to pump Bitcoin endlessly into the Bitcoin reserve. And then on the other side, there are the Brett Garlinghouses who say, no, we need a strategic Bitcoin, a strategic Ripple reserve. Then somehow the Cardano guy joins in and says, hey, no, we also need to buy Cardano. Then some other shitcoins come along wanting to sell to Donald Trump or something. And then it said, hey, we need to scrap the crypto council and instead have some informal meetings or something like that. And this has caused a lot of disappointment because the bullish news was that there would be a crypto council. And something like this has never existed in US history. Back then, I even made a big video, there were a lot of reports. Wow, Donald Trump is now starting his crypto council. And a dedicated team that focuses solely on Bitcoin regulation, crypto regulation, and the entire structuring of all the crypto stuff. And now we have somehow turned a crypto council into a few informal meetings that are taking place here. And apparently in this report, they want to do just that, so as not to completely disappoint the communities, but rather to create a kind of gentle pivot, a sort of smooth exit from it. They have taken the voters' voice into account, and now they are trying to somehow let it drift away smoothly, so that maybe they won't focus so much on Bitcoin after all. I'll also link the entire article below, so you can read it at your leisure. It says here that Trump stated that crypto enthusiast David Sachs would lead this council, and that Bo Haynes, a young politician from North Carolina, would serve as the executive director. It also mentions that Bo Haynes has met with a lot of people from the crypto industry. It further states that Unchained was unable to compile a complete list of the people Haynes met with. So it's unclear whether they were shitcoiners or Bitcoiners. However, it was confirmed that Haynes is helping the Trump administration weigh alternatives to a crypto council by presenting alternative ideas at some of his meetings. So it's not necessarily about the crypto council anymore, but rather about some informative summits or councils or something like that. And that's just it. The question is whether this is really the big deal here. I mean, maybe it's being misinterpreted. It could also be that the informative council turns out to be much cooler than the crypto council. But that was what was hyped, which also gave a lot of momentum where many people placed their hopes. Here you can see once again, you should never put your hand in the fire for a politician. It's often a lot of hot air, and then you get disappointed. And then when you project your hopes onto it, it's just very, very bad. But to mention again, hey, it's not Bitcoin that needs Donald Trump, but Donald Trump that needs Bitcoin. It's not Bitcoin that needs politics, but politics that needs Bitcoin. If it doesn't happen here and Bitcoin isn't heavily relied upon, it just means you have more time to stack Bitcoin cheaply. That means we might not see a rapid increase. For adoption, this might even be healthier than having a Valhalla candle move adoption or something like that. Just imagine we actually have a strategic Bitcoin reserve. Many people speculate that it could rise very, very rapidly. And we have often seen in the past, not only with Bitcoin but also with other assets, that a long-lasting increase, a steady increase, A slow adoption is often better in the long run than a sudden rocket-like adoption. But, in the end, we can't really choose that. We have to take it as it comes. And then there was a very interesting insight here on Joe Rogan. Bitcoin is being talked about here again. It's always quite viral when Bitcoin is discussed on Joe Rogan. I also wonder why Michael Saylor has never been invited here. And Adam Curry was a guest here now. And he speaks very, very positively about Bitcoin. I'll play for you what he says about Bitcoin later. However, he also expresses his concerns, and they align perfectly with what's now planned with the backtrack from the Trump administration. But first, check out the bullish outlook here from Adam Curry, and later we'll address the issues that are coming our way and could disappoint a lot of people. Very, very bold statement here, and says he only believes in Bitcoin, no shitcoins, no gamble tokens, no meme coins, no NFTs. Just Bitcoin, and he says Bitcoin will continue to rise. We just need to look at the time horizon. The last time I was on the Joe Rogan episode, Bitcoin was at 40,000, now we're at 100,000. He says it will continue like this until long after we're dead, so he assumes that even in 30, 40 years, Bitcoin will continue to rise. Joe Rogan then chimes in and seems to be a bit more open to shitcoins, but you can feel free to discuss in the comments whether you're Bitcoin only, or into shitcoins, or both. So, I don't really care, I always focus on Bitcoin. I always say, hey, focus on Bitcoin. Feel free to gamble around with some shitcoins, but keep your focus on Bitcoin. It's like meditation, always keep the focus on Bitcoin. Never lose focus. If you lose, always come back to Bitcoin. We simply see that people who are too involved in shitcoins often lose a lot of money. And this isn't meant to be a rule, just a friendly reminder. So what you do afterward, you can decide for yourself. But I also see it, so many people who always get burned with shitcoins. And yes, there are always one or two people who manage to outperform Bitcoin. But that's not the point right now, because we are seeing a very, very bullish Bitcoin here. And now he reports here highly alarming and highly explosive things that fit exactly with what I reported at the beginning, that Donald Trump might be backing down. And now comes the really exciting part. This is a quote he later said. Something big is coming. I'm turning the camera around again now. Something big is coming, and it has to happen. Trump is a metatype. He will refinance the country. It will be digital, and the Bitcoin supporters don't like that because they want Bitcoin to be the only currency everyone uses. But now it's more like a digital gold that's much easier to move. It's useful, but it's not money or currency as it was originally intended. But it is still very important and will be part of the United States Strategic Reserve. So he assumes that there will be a strategic reserve in the U.S. But now here comes the warning. To me, it looks like stablecoins, and especially Tether, will be the future of US dollar payments. Many people on the right are afraid of being controlled in a network because stablecoins can be stopped. But it seems like there's no way to get around some form of a digital dollar. I still like Bitcoin as a backup to protect myself from this control. So it clearly states a dystopian scenario is coming our way. The stablecoins are being rolled out. This will also mean we will continue to have surveillance here. Then maybe there will be no more cash. And the stablecoins, I said it before, are a kind of CBDC that can be introduced in a CBDC-like manner. And I also saw last time when I said that people wrote, yes, but that's privately owned. But it doesn't matter at all if it's privately owned. Because if the state puts pressure on private entities, or exerts pressure on the perpetrators, which is already happening, there are already embargo lists. There are already blacklists where the USA simply says, hey, you have to put them on these lists. You have to censor or put them on the addresses. You must do it here. You censor, we give you a list here, and if you don't censor it, then you have to expect consequences. That's already happening. And in the end, it doesn't matter at all whether it's issued by the public sector for CBDC or if it's issued by private entities. And it is also mentioned here that stablecoins have a double effect. That means, on one hand, when stablecoins are issued, US Treasury bonds are printed. This means the demand for US dollars increases. And on the other hand, the stablecoins reach a region where the regular US dollar wouldn't have otherwise reached. That means the stablecoins don't stay in the USA, but they go, for example, to Mexico. They go to Germany, or wherever else. There are even theories that if the euro collapses, the eurozone will become dollarized, meaning we might have some kind of euro dollar or something like that, or we might just have the dollar, with the dollar expanding even further here. And here we have a way. The issue is that the dollar is actually on the decline. Historically, the dollar should be replaced in the next 10 to 20 years. But with stablecoins, it seems that the dollar's dominance can be expanded. And of course, many Bitcoin enthusiasts don't like that. I also find it annoying because that's the issue now. In the whole crypto council and all the Bitcoin stuff, it's not really about Bitcoin, but mainly about the dollar. It's about strengthening the dollar with Bitcoin, perhaps to restore trust. Then a side effect might be that Bitcoin also pumps up, but primarily it's about strengthening the dollar. We need to closely watch what happens with the Crypto Council now, how it develops with the Strategic Bitcoin Reserve. Regarding Donald Trump and the USA in general, one needs to be somewhat critical, especially concerning the states. One can probably be a bit more bullish there. That means it looks very likely that states will come into play here. And with the sovereign wealth clients, it currently looks quite good. I would say that Bitcoin might also be included here. So just observe, keep going, see the whole thing long term, and don't panic. I also have to talk about these things from time to time, even though I usually prefer making political videos. So you can believe me, I would rather focus on elections than spreading any kind of determination here, but I have to look at this too. I have to consider both sides, and then you can make up your own mind whether you want to go along with this or say no. The USA will set up a strategic Bitcoin reserve this week or next week, folks, if you still want to buy Bitcoin. Some customer links to 21 Bitcoin, showing you how you can easily and securely buy Bitcoin. With the code, you can get up to 20% off the fee when purchasing Bitcoin. An absolute recommendation. A lot of people here who also follow the channel use 21 Bitcoin successfully. There have never been any problems, complaints, or anything like that. Feel free to write in the comments if everything is working for you, if you're happy here. Guys, we'll see each other. Until then, peace out.